Hello, and welcome to my show, The Thriving Woman. I am your host, Carmel Austin.
I can't believe I'm counting down the minutes till it's Tuesday. Another day back on.
I will be sharing keys to help you form healthy hearts and boundaries. I'll see you in the show. Hello, this is Carmel Austin here, and this is The Thriving Woman. And today I have a very special guest on. I have one of my beautiful authors with my new book, Courageous Voices Unlocked. Welcome, Nic, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Nikki and I have met briefly a couple of years in a row at an awards night, and we're hoping to connect again this year. And I just love Nikki. I love her heart. I love her passion. There's so many things as Nikki and I have got to know each other that we're very similar. And I find that God puts that together. He puts kindred spirits, kindred hearts together, and Nikki is one of those. And folks, if you don't know it, I love writing, I love creativity, I love all things creative. And this year I had the privilege that I've actually painted the cover for our new book, Courageous Voices Unlocked. Courageous Voices Unlocked is in the series. The first book came out, The Artist Haven. And I just was so blessed with that book. That book went to #1 in 7 categories. And we're going towards that as well with this book too. But it's not about the awards, the night, the excitement, and even the written word. It's beyond the written word. It's about relationship. And that's the thing that I love. I love to build community. I love to build relationships with people. And I just feel so blessed that God has given me this international ministry where I sit in my office at home with all my beautiful artwork. My puppy dog is there with me as well. And I get to chat with my artists, my authors, my podcasters with the Thriving Woman show. And it's fun. I get to do my hair, put my makeup on, and Nic knows that. Nic does the emceeing for an awards night, and she's like the queen of, you just get beautiful dress, you get all dressed up, and that's fun. As women, we love to do that. So Nic, share a little bit with my audience about when you're not doing that. Who are you? I know you live in Adelaide and I'm here in New South Wales, Australia, and share a little bit with my audience about your journey.
Yeah, so my name is Nic. I live in the beautiful Adelaide Hills with my 3 now teenagers. And, I'm a country girl. I grew up in the country, moved to South Australia in 2003, came down here at the time to attend Bible college, which I did for 2.5 years, had a baby. Life kind of went in a different direction and I had to give all of that up. But yeah, today I run a marketing company. I run a change leadership company. I do a bunch of things like lots of workshops, lots of training, lots of consulting. Then I do all the fun things, which is, dressing up in nice dresses at the end of the year for gala dinners, which is, really quite an honor and a privilege and a highlight of the year. But I get to do lots of other things like write books, and, it really connects in. I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, so I won't go there right now, but it really just connects in with who I am as a person, why I believe I'm here. And I just live this beautiful flow of, the normal chaos of life, teenagers and family things going down, challenges, the same challenges everybody else has, right? We've all got them. No one's perfect, and no one's without those challenges. But, as it sometimes is intense in the challenge, it's equally as intense in the good.
Mm.
And I've learnt to take a step back at every step, whether it's good or challenging, and look for the goodness of God. And so every day I just wake up so grateful that I'm me, that God has put such a unique, mandate on my life, that God gives me these opportunities to write, to MC gala dinners and wear really beautiful dresses. And, I didn't ever think that I would be standing on stages in front of hundreds of people, but here we are. But, it's just, I'm just so grateful that God would, choose me for here and now at this time and place. And yeah, like there's just so many cool things going on. And, in the midst of the chaos, there is just so much good going on. And so I wake up in the morning just feeling so incredibly blessed and grateful, to be living this life.
Oh, and it's so true, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah.
We're going from striving to thriving. That was my first ebook that I put out a couple of years ago when I made my sixth website, because I'm a website developer and I love to play in the background. And Nick will tell you I'm always creating some stuff in Canva or sending out emails or doing all that. And for me, as the writing mentor and the coach and leading this book, I just thrive in that area. I love to do all that. And so I love to support all of my authors and I love to do all the marketing and this is part of the marketing where we're on my podcast show and we're talking about life and the realities of life and just from the Artist Haven, I've watched some of my authors, go on and publish more things and really grow as human beings and where they're going and their calling. And that's me. That's the mother heart of me, the nurturer, that
Yeah.
when people come into my books, I'm coaching them with their writing. I'm coaching them with their lives. I'm giving them the grace that people have given to me. And I just love it with Nic, she just gets up and she moves forward, even though there's things happening around her life. And that, and I feel the same way that God has just given
Yeah.
me this incredible opportunity. And when Nic reached out to me and said, I'm really interested in writing in your book, I felt so incredibly blessed that, she wants to be part of this journey because, I just put myself out like with Nic, and you make that step and you just step out there in faith because I knew for decades God wanted me to write, He wanted me to illustrate, He wanted me to have this platform, but I just wasn't sure how it was going to come. And when I did my first book, Just Say No, I got offered this podcast show. And for the first season, I went with a company in America, and then my dad passed away and I needed to put it into a sabbatical. Then I took on my own VA who now puts my podcast shows out, and then she's moved on and I'm looking for another VA. But what I've learned is it's okay to plod. It's okay
Yeah.
just to take your time. I have a husband who goes to work and supports us financially, and we're at that stage of our lives as well where, I can invest in myself, but it really doesn't matter. You can be in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, 60s, and 70s. One of the ladies in our book, Shona Robbins, she's in her 70s and she's thriving in this season. And she's just such, a blessing to be part of this journey with me, with
Yeah.
the Thriving Woman podcast show, with sharing her story. So each one of the stories in our book is very unique. But what I love about my books as well is we go from one story to the next, and the person who's written the first story, there's a little link chapter where we introduce the next author. So, folks, I can't set that up. My beautiful editor and published, she helps me with publishing as well, Stephanie, and all the process of it. We're the dream team. She named us the dream team. I know it's corny, but you know what? We work well together, and she's a mum of 3 children, young. This is probably going to be her 8th book that she's written a story in, but she turns up and she's there for me and she's such an encouragement. And that's what I like about Nic, you know. She's there for her people and what she does and the season that she's in. And, you know, she's raising teenage boys and life's busy for her, but she's willing to turn up. So, Nic, share a little bit more with my audience about that journey of your story in our book.
Yeah, so firstly, I just want to honor you, Carmel, for what you do. You're a tiny bit older than me, maybe 3 or 4 years, and but you haven't stopped, walking in your lane. You haven't stopped God from using you to do the things that He needs to do through you, and it's been such an incredible journey. Working with you, speaking with you. We've had some phone calls, which have actually just filled my soul. Because it's actually really hard to find people that are on the same page when it comes to these things, right? It can be a really lonely journey at times, but you've done an incredible job. And, Courageous Voices Unlocked, it just jumped out at me. I just thought, you know what, that is my story. And so as I was preparing for this podcast, I was reflecting on when I thought it was actually going to be a good idea to start writing, because it's a lot of time. It's a big commitment. We don't just turn up and you teach this, right? When you go to write a book, you don't write for perfection. You've got to write and just allow that some kind of flow to happen. And then you go back over that and you edit it. And with my last book, when I wrote the entire thing, I don't even know what the hours are. I don't even want to record the hours because it's scarily a lot. And so it's a big commitment. And I remember as a teenager just looking at these people who, were writing books and going, why would they do that? Like, they mustn't have a life. Like, as a teenager, I was like, why would you bother? Like, what a waste of time. And I wasn't an attention to detail person back then, really. But I run a marketing company now. And so a lot of my work is writing, and attention to detail is everything. And so, I moved to South Australia and went to Bible college, got my diploma of ministry, upgraded to do the degree, because if you've survived that far, you just go the extra bit, get that done. But fell pregnant with my daughter, and life was not moving in the direction that it needed to move with. There was massive compromise going on, and I just knew that I could not use what God had put me here. I couldn't use what I was learning at Bible college, right? And so I came to this place where, as a kid, as a teenager, I was on fire for God. Like, I was in leadership roles at the age of 12. Then I was a youth leader. Then I was, in the band, the worship team. Then I was playing keys with the worship team. Then I was leading the worship team. Then I was keys and leading the worship team. Like, I just had this whole picture in my mind of where my life was going. And I didn't care about travel. I didn't care about university. I just wanted to serve God with my life, right? And so when I came to South Australia and I went to Bible college and I had to give it all up, I had this feeling of grief come over me, because I'm like, the picture in my mind of the life that I thought I was going to live, and my intentions were very pure. Like, who wants to be in leadership? Seriously, it's not easy, right? It's a time commitment. It's a life commitment. Leadership is tough, right? But I just remember thinking, I don't want anything else. Like, I don't want anything else. And when I got to Bible college and I did my thing, and, life was kind of going not in a good direction. And these were external influences of things going on. And so I had to give it all up. I had to give up the call of God on my life. I had to give up that picture. And I feel like for many of us, that one thing alone is really life-changing, right? Because we get this picture in our mind of how we think our life is going to roll. But I'm going to say 75% of the time, it doesn't roll like that. We can do our best. We can be faithful. We can be hearing from God. We can be, doing what we've got to do, staying in the Word, staying in worship. We can be faithful with those things, but life generally doesn't go as planned. And I don't know if you've noticed the last few years, the last 5 years for the whole entire world did not go to plan, right? But God took the part that didn't go to plan, and fast forward to today, he's given it all back. You know, what was stolen from me, he has restored in every single way. And he continues to do that in every season that I find myself in. And that's going to be something that he's going to continue to do. So that's a lifelong thing, right? But I had to grieve this life that I thought I was going to live. And anyway, I walked away from God. And that was a big thing for me to do. But I was like, God, if this is all there is, you know, I gave you everything I had. I gave you my teenage years. I gave you my life. But if this is as good as it gets, I don't want to know anymore. I don't want to be a Christian. I don't know why I should get out of bed on a Sunday morning and spend all this time praying. And this is awful, right? This is really bad. Like, I love God. I'm just got such a passion and a fire on the inside for the right things, right? But life can really grind you down to some points in your journey where you start to question everything. And for me, I was questioning God. So I ended a marriage, and, you know, that has its implications, and that was a very tough thing to do. And, you know, got to the point where I walked away 4 years out of church, and another significant, and they were the worst 4 years of my life. Like, I'm not going to lie. And it's not, you know, people talk about walking away from God, and I'm like, how could you do that? Like, how could you do that? But it happens. I did it. So now I understand. That's another level of understanding, right? Because when you take your journey and you get led down paths that you don't expect to go down, you get to learn. You win or you learn. End of story, full stop, right? So I get back to church, and I found that God just got hold of me. And I'm spending a lot of time at this point in my life. This is 2016. So I'm spending a lot of time in worship. I am pacing my bedroom, worshiping for hours at night, because I needed God to usher in some breakthroughs. I'm like, all right, God, you got me back. Now let's just get this party started. Like, let's just get this stuff moving. And I can remember driving up and down. We live on one of the freeways here, 5 minutes from the freeway. And I was driving up and down there, just bawling my eyes out, listening to a song from Hillsong, which is called Ruins. And the words kind of go, you know, the ruins come to life, you know, in the power of your name, coming up from the ashes, God forever, you know, we will honor you. Something, I've completely lost the lyrics there, but you know, it was just a real deep cry in my heart to go, God, you've got to bring the ruins to life. You've absolutely got to bring these ruins to life. And if I'm still breathing and still waking up every morning, and you've got a purpose, I need you to reveal it yesterday. And so I got to the point where I was really pressing in. And so my chapter, or I talk about in my chapter, you know, ruins coming to life, because I'm not the person I was 20 years ago. You know, the fire of God literally has burnt stuff away that should never have been there. And it's not even, some of it was self-inflicted, but some of this stuff I didn't take on. You know, it's not me. It's life. It's people. It's, you know, marriage breakdowns. It's like loss of identity. It's like lots of stuff like that. And so, you know, I kind of went from this point where I gave up on God, and I came back, and I remember it was 2018, and God just turned my entire year around, like literally in 12 months. And I went back to church, a great church in the Adelaide Hills here, who are my community, for about 5 years. And I just said to God, every time that I walk into this church, because I was nervous, right? I've been in church all my life, but you walk into church on your own is very nerve-wracking. And I'm like, God, every time I walk into this church, every time I get out of bed and I make the commitment to walk into church on a Sunday, I am praying and believing that you will heal me just that little bit more. And by the end of this year, I'm going to be a different person. And by the end of that year, I was a different person, right? I had my joy back. I had my peace back. I had everything back. I still had a lot of work to do. Like, every new season of your life requires a new level of you, a new version of you, right? And the stuff that you've dealt with in the past, or the pain, or the trauma, or the grief, or the loss, or whatever it is that you've suffered in the past, will still continue to surface in the future because your seasons change and it requires you to then readjust things, right? And that's not a bad thing. Like, we talk about it as if it's a really bad thing. I think it's a fabulous thing, right? Because you know exactly what you need to adjust and work on as you move through life. So God did crazy things, turned my business around. I've been very unwell over the years. I got very sick in 2010, got down to 51 kilos, did not want to live, like Flinders Hospital for a week on oxygen, drips, like you name it. I was just like, God, I do not want to get better. And he made me better. So here we are. But, you know, a little bit unwell over the years, but God restored my health. He gave me answers health-wise that I hadn't had before, which then put me at ease, which then didn't create other health problems. There's been things going on. You know, I've had a couple of cancer scares. They've only been scares, thank goodness. Praise God. But, you know, your health is everything. But he has just completely turned my life around, and I'm a completely different person these days. But in 2017, I'm talking about how, you know, I kind of get into writing. That was a long-winded response. But in 2017, I really felt God say, you got to write a book. And I'm like, nah, you got the wrong chick for that. Like, no way, God. He's like, you got to write a book. And I was having conversations with other Christian entrepreneurs at the time, and they're like, Nic, people don't, you know, Christian business owners are really struggling to merge business, ministry, money, you name it. It was a problem, right? It was a conflict. And he said, you're going to write a book about, you know, about the link between you being in business and that being your mission field and that being your ministry. So we curated authors, and it was an incredible book. But the most important part about that book was it was a huge regroup for me personally, right? And I felt God say, you're going to heal through this. You're going to realign, you're going to find your lane, and you're going to start walking in that lane. And that's what happened. And that's what happened with my next book, right? I turned 40 in 2019, and I had been writing my book for 2 years, and I'd been very sick. I felt like I had a lot of opposition about the book, and I did have a lot of opposition. It wasn't even physical sometimes, but I wrote that book, launched it at my 40th. But, you know, writing that book healed me in ways that nothing else can, you know, because you're asking God for answers, and I remember just waking up in the morning going, kids, get yourselves dressed for school. I've got to dump. Like, I would wake up with a head full of ahas and silver linings and gold threads. And so I've been typing away, and I'm writing my next book now, right? And I'm a little bit smarter this time, and I'm dictating into my phone as I'm putting school lunches out and getting uniforms and whatever else. But you know, every time you write, you have that opportunity to heal. Yeah. And, you know, I'm writing now about identity, and I'm like, well, God, let's start with me, you know? And so it's just so good to be able to pull all of that together and come together with other authors in the book to share our stories of courage, because I think it is the most beautiful thing that God does not want us to stay where we are. He does not want us to stay where we are. And he offers us this, you know, he offers the beauty for ashes, you know, joy in the morning. I mean, life's not perfect. I have teenagers. It is nutso right now. This year has been a different level of what is going on, right? But that doesn't change the goodness of God. And that doesn't change the fact that even in this season of my life with teenagers, that God's still working on me, and I get to work on my kids. God gets to work on my kids. So I feel like it's just so beautiful that God wants us to come to a place of healing and wholeness. But I find it even more incredible that when we come to a point of healing and wholeness, that he then wants us to go and use those stories to help other people come to healing and wholeness. And so the Courageous Voices Unlocked book is absolutely going to be an incredible book full of stories of women who have walked through some of the worst situations ever. There's been loss, grief. You got to buy the book. We're not giving anything away in this podcast. Just get the book. But a bunch of women, and from across the world, right, who have walked through significant things. But God has given us courage. And we've believed enough in God to take us where we are and move us forward into a place of wholeness and healing. And so Courageous Voices Unlocked is just powerful, you know, like there's a quote that floats around on social media a lot, and it says, tell your story, because your story could be the key that unlocks someone else's prison, right? So someone's story can be the key. Your story, my story, can be the key that unlocks someone else's pain. And, you know, when we're looking at humanity, it's not even the big things. It's little things, you know. It's like, I got made redundant from a job. My church and I didn't get on. Like, there's just so many little things that go on. I was rejected. I was, you know, I was married. He had an affair, whatever, right? There's so much going on in our world, but we get the chance to use our stories. And very imperfect, broken people, we all are, right? None of us have it together completely. But this book is going to take that courage, and as our voices have been unlocked, we are really declaring that other people's voices will be unlocked too.
Oh, Nick, that is so true. And, you know, I want to go back to that. You know, when I started to do my coaching and got certified, and God started to say to me, you know, I want you to write about your story. And I'm like, that's difficult. And then when I wrote my story in Just Say No, and it is a healing process, and
Yep.
you get healed, you help other people heal along the way. And you know, my whole motto is helping women rewrite their inner story, you know. And often it's one of the ladies in our book, Catherine. I coached her for 12 months a couple of years ago about rewriting her inner story, and now she's writing her story in our book. And
Yeah, wow.
you know, it was waiting for her to be ready
Yeah,
to come in and to start telling people even that she was having some coaching. And so, you know, there's all those different levels of freedom that come to our lives when
yeah,
we, like you said, the first time you start writing, you know, it's messy and it's not perfect. And that's why, you know, you've got me as your writing mentor, and Stephanie as, you know, our editor, and the way that she edits and how we get everyone's stories, and we want to bring out the best in them, you
yeah,
know, because we know we've walked that journey. But I know for me, it's coming into that place of, you know, I thrive now because I love doing this. I love interviewing on my podcast show. I love sharing people's stories. I love that, you know, these books are coming to life, and I'm seeing my paintings and my creation as I create the covers
yeah,
and all the intricate parts. And you know, I've done all the courses and done all the things growing up in a big family. You know, we'd have 50 people over, and mum and I had organised that.
yeah,
You know, and to some people, 50 people's an event, where to me, that's just the family. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
so all those years of learning and all those skills and going to TAFE and heartaches of what I've been through, we get to this place
yeah,
when we keep on saying yes to God, yes to ourselves, yes to our dreams. Because, you know, I don't want to be that one where, you know, I put the present on the shelf and it's been collecting dust and I haven't opened it. And I
yeah,
really believe that's Nick's story, you know, and this is what Courageous Voices Unlocked is. You know, Nick, I don't know whether I've shared this with you, but originally we were talking about calling the book Moving from Brokenness to Freedom, which that's
yeah,
our subtitle. But
yeah,
I had a migraine. I'm in bed. I've got my blankets over my head, and God said, you're changing the title. And I went, what? And he goes, you're changing the title. So I did some brainstorming with him and Stephanie, and we came up with Courageous Voices Unlocked. And then when we started looking, there were people talking about courses with Courageous Voices. There are other people with books with Unlocked, and God speaks in the multiples. And
yeah,
so this title and this book is in season for what is happening in the globe. You know, and to be an international speaker, to have my podcast show internationally, you know, we've got Deanne, who's a musician. We've got, you know, you who's written. We've got people who are first time writers. We've got Stephanie, who is a seasoned writer and editor. You know, now I've grown into this role, you know, as a writing mentor, wholeness coach. And I just feel incredibly blessed that God's given me this stage. I've got a husband
Yeah.
who supports me 100% with everything that I do,
Yep.
you know, and it's been a season of growing and learning. You know, for years, I sent money to Israel after I went there in 2010 to support orphans and widows, and I still have a lot of their beautiful products. So I want to encourage you all that, you know, as you get up and you take that step with you wanting to write or wanting to share your story, you know, that's something that I've grown into. So, you know,
Yeah.
if you're wanting to do that, we're here there for you every step of the way to help you plan that with Carmel Austin Publishing under Carmel's Garden. And
Yeah.
with Nic and I know that, you know, we're planning other things together other than this book. But today we're celebrating our courageous voice. We're celebrating women who have united together and
Yeah.
that we come together with a story to share and tell beyond the written word that
Mm.
you can put your pearls on as well. You can get up and you can follow your dreams, and
Yeah.
it's okay to do that. You can do your self-care, because our next book after this is about self-care, you know, and there's so many stories. You know, I often interview 20 people or more around a book, and some people aren't quite ready, and some have come back from the other book, and some girls, you know, we've written our story in 3 books together. But what
Yeah.
a journey it is that we're on,
Yeah.
you know, and I just feel incredibly blessed. Thank you, Nic, for honoring me and sharing that really true raw story about what courageous voices is unlocked is, and what we are doing as we stay in our own lane and we honor, you know, the leaders and the people and all the groups, because you all know we're on Facebook, we're on socials, there's so many places we can go. But as we, you know, listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit and just be okay with who we are.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, you know, Nic, finding that balance. And it's really brave, I know, Nic, to walk back into a church. I haven't necessarily ever walked away from God. I grew up as a Catholic and then started going to Pentecostal churches, but moved around a few of them, you know, in my small town. But I know what it's like when you've been hurt by pastors or people and you don't want to go into a building and you're going in there alone and you're feeling like, you know, nobody cares for you, but really they do, and God does.
Yeah.
But really, this is your own journey, and it's not about whether someone claps you or acknowledges you or pats you on the back and says you're good or you're bad. You just got to continue to follow in your own lane. And that's what I like about Nic. I love that she grabs hold of everything that she's doing and she does it with passion. And you know what, Nic, if you hadn't, you know, walked away and realized that, you know, those things that were happening, you wouldn't be in this place where you are today. And God's grace covered all that. He lets.
100%.
How many
100%.
children don't go to church for years or grow up in the church and then don't go for years?
Yeah.
God doesn't care about whether you enter a building. He's
Yeah.
always working on your heart. You know,
Yeah.
and for me, I've found that balance. My husband likes to go for a motorbike ride on Sundays. That's his way, you know, and I like to get on there with him too. I don't always go to church. I like to walk on the beach and spend time with God. So, you
Yeah.
know, the building is a building, but it's finding those groups and those connections. And I
Mm.
think as we mature, it's in those small places, in the friends that you
Correct.
walk on the beach with, or with me. You know, I've got friends that have Socks as mum and brother and sister, and we connect. And, you know, and it's about those intimate conversations that you have with people. And that's the thing that I love about Courageous Voices Unlocked. It's way beyond the written word. But hey, folks, I'm seriously excited about this book, that it's coming out in October. And I'm really thrilled that Nic has said yes. She said yes to her dream. She said yes to me. She's aligned with what God has given me. She'll be featuring as well in our magazine, Mystery of Eden, after our book has come out. I was hoping for it to come out this month, but knew that it was the wrong season to do that, and we need to focus on the book. And I need to do my self-care. I need to be able to shut my computer down and spend time with my
Correct.
family and look after
Yeah.
me. So, this has been this year for me. It's been a real season as well of thinking I was going to go 100 miles an hour, and God's just pulled me back and said, no, stop. Do your self care, enjoy your wins, because it was only 12 months ago the Artist Haven came out, and here we are,
Yeah.
we've got the series, the sequel coming out next month. And then I had this dream 12 months ago about a magazine, and it's coming out in November. So I just feel incredibly blessed with all of our viewers, all of our listeners, all of my beautiful authors, my supporters, my podcasters, because I believe in community. I
Yeah.
believe that, God brings hearts together. And
Yes.
thank you so much, Nic, for sharing that and sharing that depth of rawness and reality, that people know that, when they support us, they buy our book. When you buy my ebook, all the money goes to my cousin's mission in Timor, and it goes towards mums having babies, and I put all that towards there. And then we do our launches, and we have a party, and we get our books and we get them in my author's hands, and I encourage them to do launches and all the fun stuff, because we've done the hard yards,
Yeah.
we've done the
Yes.
writing, we've done the what am I going to write and how am I going to bring it together? And then I get the privilege of getting everyone's stories and reading over them and giving feedback. And then Stephanie comes in and does her feedback. And then now, I'm working with the formatter, and it's such a privilege to just not only bring the book together, but here I am with all these beautiful women who are trusting me on this journey. So, Nic,
Mm,
thank you again. And I'm so excited about our book coming out shortly and all the fun things that are going to come up as we get our books in our hands and,
yeah.
we move forward in that. So, Nic, as we're finishing up, would you like to just say something very quick to my audience to encourage them as we finish this podcast show?
Yeah, I feel like as women we feel we get quite stuck. It's men and women, it's not just women. I feel like humanity can get very stuck on what happened, or get stuck on what didn't happen, or the picture in their mind that did not happen, or the way it was gonna happen. And I found in my journey that God really challenged me to surrender up not only the destination, but also the journey. And when I surrender up the journey, I end up leaving the destination to Him, because His ways are higher than our ways, right? And He knows what He's doing. He knows my, I love to have things all neat, tidy, under control. But God doesn't work like that. And so I feel like people get stuck. And so, we're talking about thriving from, going from surviving to thriving. I feel like it's really important for people to know that not everything is out of our control. God has given us everything we need to live a really beautiful, fulfilling life. That beautiful, fulfilling life is not the absence of the chaos.
Yes.
And that was something that I learned about 4 years ago. I said, God, when is it going to quieten down? Because I'm tired. I'm done. I'm on my own with these kids. I'm trying to run businesses. I'm trying to do, and God's just like, okay, whatever, like here I'm having this big rant. And He kind of said, Nic, it's not about the absence of the chaos, right? It's about the steps, the journey to whatever destination God has you on. And I almost had the sense of, what if every day was a destination? Like, why are we wasting time going, I can't wait for this to happen, I can't wait for that to happen, I can't wait to be retired, can't wait for my kids to leave home, which is probably going to be never anyway, so let's just kick that one out the window. But do you know what I mean? Like, you know, we get so stuck in, oh, there's so much to do and so much to say, and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And so I feel like it's about taking a step back and taking charge of your thrive. And, you know, in my book, Your Life, Your Masterpiece, I wrote a chapter about cheese platters, and I shared in that book an analogy of what makes a good cheese platter, but the analogy was actually how to thrive. And some of those, you know, key aspects of things have really helped me personally to be really thriving. Like, if I died tomorrow, I found my thrive.
Yep.
I lived a fulfilled life. You know, I lived out the call of God on my life. I lived out the mandate. I stayed in my lane. I got it done, and God was good, even though the chaos is there, right to the end, right? And so there's ways that you can go about finding your thrive. And so some of these things are just simple things like balance, you know, the mix, getting the mix right in your life. But it's also about things like adding in the beauty, you know, and you mentioned me being an MC and having to wear pretty dresses at the end of the year. To me, that's beauty. That's just one way that I can, it's one, a little bit of beauty, and two, a little bit of luxury, right? Because, and it actually, you know, I look forward to it, and I prepare my heart, and I prepare the room in advance before I get there. So I'm already preparing to turn up in Sydney. And yes, I have my dress, so I'm all done, ready to roll. But you know, it's about just allowing God to you know, take the brokenness and turn it into beauty and turn it into things that are going to help you live. And so, you know, looking after myself, self-care. Like, I have a day off when the kids are at school. Otherwise, I don't get a day off. I travel, and when I travel, I stay in nice places. Like, you know, there's ways to go about, you know, finding your thrive. And I know that that's what a lot of your podcast and writing is about. But it's, you know, it's also about the things that you say no to.
Yeah.
It's also about the things that you don't allow into your world. And so I've learned over the last probably 5 years to ring fence myself against certain things that have no value, add no value to my life,
Yes.
that have the potential to send me in the wrong path, that have the potential to take away from my thrive, that have the potential to take me out of my lane, right? So we just got to know that, you know, not everything is out of our control. A lot is in our control. And we've been given everything we need to live a beautiful, fulfilled life. The chaos is right here, right? It's right there. But it's how you choose to see it. And I think I've just learned to not get so caught up when something happens, but take a step back. And because my, you know, my Thrive bank account, if you like, is so full, now I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, here we go again. Oh, the boys, yeah, the girls, whatever. This is, yeah, okay, all right. It might rock me for a day, it might rock me for a few days, an hour. But now I've learned to keep walking. Yep. Because I'm a strong person as a woman who thrives. So, and I think just being very faithful with what's in front of you at every point, right? Because everything positions you for where you need to be in the future. So, yeah, I just want to, you know, I guess share that. And we've been given everything we need, but it's actually up to us.
Yes.
You know, we have to be participants in what God wants to do in our worlds, and the healing and the wholeness that he wants to bring to our lives. And so, yeah, like, let's just take a look around our lives and go, what is actually in my control? And God, how can I thrive? How can I be courageous? How can I find wholeness and healing so that then my story can be shared to unlock someone else's pain and someone else's potential?
Exactly. And that's exactly what Courageous Voices Unlocked is about. It's about being honest, vulnerable, taking the time out for yourself, doing your self-care. And like Nic said, there's chaos every day, folks. We all know that. But it's how you cope with it. It's allowing maturity to come. And not, you know, and for me, you know, we're all dealing with the stuff of the past, but are we willing to invest in our future and in our todays. So thank you again, Nick. I'm so excited, with this podcast show coming up, with our book coming up as well. And, we'll have a team podcast show as well that, will be airing too, and lots of media, because I love, the whole thing of showcasing all of my authors, showcasing their lives, and just thanking God for the journey.
Yep.
So today I'm going to say, I will see you all in another episode of The Thriving Woman. God bless for now.